And first and foremost, I want to talk about the Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch defends her Raw Women's title against Doudrop. And when WWE first announced this match, it was a head scratcher. I will admit that. Simply because they're both heels. Technically, they're both heels. Even though Big Time Bex gets cheered by the fans, even though she is that big of a star to the WWE Universe, she is still being booked as a heel. She is still portraying herself as a heel. So this is a heel versus heel championship match, which is pretty standard for an event like the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, where the main event, or the main course, rather, is the actual 30 men and 30 women Royal Rumble match itself. So I get that part. But this is a pretty easy prediction on my part. There is no way, no chance in hell that on the road to WrestleMania, WWE sacrifices their biggest draw in the women's division, that is Becky Lynch, to put over Doudrop right now. That's no knock on Doudrop. She's pretty much elevated her game ever since turning heel, which is always a plus for WWE in this case. But it just wouldn't make sense to handicap Becky Lynch in that manner on the road to WrestleMania, where I believe she is truly going to drop that title. So that first match, Becky Lynch versus Doudrop, Becky Lynch retains her Raw Women's Championship, hands down. No issue. No problem at all. Then we've got ourselves the mixed tag team match. It's the Grit couple versus the It couple. Now, you all know this if you've been watching my videos over the past few months or the past few weeks. I'm not really interested in anything involving Edge versus The Miz. I think both of their time currently on the roster can be used in a much better way, like putting over new stars instead of going at it against each other. But adding Beth Phoenix and Maurice to the mix has elevated my interest in this match. It really has. Their day one encounter was run-of-the-mill. It was pretty much a roadblock. It was the prologue to this match, which should be the end of their feud, the end of their rivalry. Now, will this lead to Beth Phoenix possibly entering the Rumble match itself, possibly having one last run? Anything is possible in WWE. But as far as this match goes, I think the Grit couple, in this case, Edge and Beth Phoenix, need to win this match. They really need to. It's Beth Phoenix's return, and you've got to build Edge up at least a little bit. He doesn't really need it. He's a big enough name to just head into WrestleMania with no momentum and still matter. But, I mean, we're talking about a Hall of Famer. We're talking about an 11-time world champion in Edge. So it wouldn't be the best move for WWE to have him lose this bout. I will tell you this. The Grit couple will win, and when they win, they will have Beth Phoenix, the Glamazon, pin Maurice. Because out of the 4 people involved in this match, Maurice is the one with the least to lose. If she is the one to take the pinfall or the submission. It could be a submission. You could have her tap out. But either way, the Grit couple gets the win. Now it's time to get into the interesting part of tomorrow's event. Both championship matches, both Rumble matches. And I'm going to get into some very tricky situations, because all of you know that by this point, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania is pretty much set in stone. Barring any injury, knock on wood, barring any injury, that is set to be one of the main events of WrestleMania, if not the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania. Which makes it tricky, because currently both Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are the champions of their respective brands. Even though they're both from the SmackDown brand, Brock Lesnar is currently holding the Raw WWE Championship. And reports on wrestling news websites state that Brock Lesnar is scheduled to head back to SmackDown on the road to WrestleMania. He will not keep working both shows because that would undermine the brand split. That would undermine both championships on the road to the show of shows. But here's the thing. Which one of these champions loses their title on the road to WrestleMania? And which one of these performers, superstars, men benefit the most from chasing a champion on the road to WrestleMania? And much like with Becky Lynch, I've said it in the past. Roman Reigns cannot lose until WrestleMania. I get that there's this temptation to just switch the championships like they've done in the past. Have Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship and take the title to Raw. Brock Lesnar defeats Bobby Lashley, retains the WWE Championship, heads back to SmackDown, and now he has the Tribal Chief himself, Roman Reigns, chasing Brock Lesnar for the title. That seems pretty simple, right? It is. It's pretty simple. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's not the best use of both of these characters. Because out of both men, out of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, the one that doesn't get as hurt from a loss is Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar has been chasing Roman Reigns since August of last year, since SummerSlam. And that's worked. That's worked wonders for WWE television. When Brock Lesnar confronts Roman Reigns in any capacity, fans hold on to their seats and stick their eyes to the screen. So, with that said, you already know my predictions. I think Roman Reigns is set to retain his Universal Championship against Seth Rollins, even though the Usos are barred from ringside. Doesn't matter. Seth Rollins can take a loss. Hell, he lost to Edge inside Hell in a Cell. And just a few weeks later, he was a #1 contender to the WWE Championship. And losing to the Tribal Chief, it'll be no different. Seth Rollins is going to be okay on the road to WrestleMania. But we need the Tribal Chief to keep his championship. So I'm going with Reigns retaining his title. And then we move on to the WWE Championship match. And as much as I want this to be a clean-cut bout between two of the best, I mean, this match has been long awaited ever since Bobby Lashley made his debut in 2005 SmackDown. Ever since he made headlines in the world of MMA, and since he became the Destroyer in Impact Wrestling. People have wanted to see these two men clash, and the energy that they give out every single week on Monday Night Raw, it's palpable. You can feel it, and you want these two men to go at it. And the little taste that WWE gave us at day one, it was a great appetizer. Now it's time for the main course at the Rumble. And that main course includes the almighty Bobby Lashley pinning Brock Lesnar to once again become WWE Champion and head into the granddaddy of them all, the show of shows, as champion once again. And this won't be a clean win. Unfortunately, it won't. Because they still have to build to Reigns versus Lesnar at WrestleMania. So, yeah. We're going to have Reigns cause a distraction. Possibly, if the Usos are barred from the Universal Championship match, they aren't barred from the WWE Championship match. They could cause a distraction there, cost Lesnar the match, and then you have Lesnar chasing Reigns on the road to WrestleMania. And WWE gets to the finish line of where they wanted to be in the first place. so Lashley beats Lesnar in this much weighted match. And honestly, Lashley does need this win to really establish him as a main. Now it's time to get into the Royal Rumble matches. And with those results that those predictions that I just gave from the title matches, you can obviously state that nobody from SmackDown is going to win the Rumble match if you already have the main event for WrestleMania on the SmackDown side of things set with Lesnar versus Reigns. So in that case, somebody from Raw needs to win the Rumble and challenge Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania in Dallas. And it's someone who, much like his teammate, has been overlooked ever since losing the WWE Championship. And I'm talking about Big E. Now, a lot of fans out there will be saying that he got short-handed in that title match at day one. He got screwed. He didn't deserve to lose the title in that manner. Okay. That adds to the story. And as much as you want to say it, as much as you don't want to admit it even, WWE titles, all wrestling titles, are just props. They're MacGuffins used to tell a story. And right now, the story is Big E lost the title at day one. And then he lost the number one contenders match instead of getting his immediate rematch against Lesnar. But now he gets it all again. And this time he gets to overcome one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest handicaps of his first title reign. He never truly beat Bobby Lashley for the title at the top of his game. But now, if he wins the Rumble and heads into WrestleMania, he can do that. The question is, will he do that? But that's a question for another day. That's a question heading into March and April. But as far as my pick goes, Big E should become the winner of this year's Royal Rumble match, just to set him back on course, just to give him some kind of momentum. And, I mean, if you recall, Big E with the Money in the Bank briefcase, that was pretty entertaining. So having that man, that very entertaining fella, chasing a champion, that makes for good television. And then we've got the women's side of things. And this prediction of this match is going to kind of bleed into my next segment. Because I'm just going to go out and say it. The winner of this year's Women's Royal Rumble match should be Bianca Belair. She's worked her ass off. She's the top star on the Raw brand. And it will do wonders for her career to win that Rumble match again. I believe for a second consecutive year. It would be great. It would establish her as a top star and as someone that both Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch should watch out for. On the flip side, you could also have a returning Sasha Banks, returning from injury. Sasha Banks win the Rumble match and challenge Charlotte Flair for the title at Mania. I mean, they teased an encounter between the Boss and the Queen. They never really went through with it. And then Sasha Banks unfortunately got injured at a live event, which has kept her away from WWE television from the past few weeks. So I'm not even sure if she's even cleared to compete at the Rumble match. But then again, anything is possible in WWE. So those are my two clear-cut winners for the Women's Rumble match of the current crop of talent. We could also factor in Bayley and Asuka and a current Impact Knockouts champion Mickie James. So they could all win the Rumble match itself. It would create some interesting matchups at WrestleMania. Why not have Lita win the Rumble match? Wouldn't that establish her as a be-all, end-all legend of the women's division? I'm more interested about the women's Rumble match at this point than the men's Royal Rumble match. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of things that they're going to throw at us and who's going to win. But, like I said, this segment bleeds into my next segment. So I'm just going to end this right here. if this person returns at the Royal Rumble, which is being rumored that she will, much like her debut 4 years ago, if she does return, there is absolutely no way she does not win the Rumble match. And I'm talking about Ronda Rousey. So if she returns, she's my pick. If not, I'll give it to Bianca Belair. But what do you think? Who do you think wins the Rumble matches on each side of things? Who do you think returns? What kind of surprises are we going to get? Do you agree with my thoughts on the Royal Rumble situation? Yes, no? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below.